So Expedition 33 is definitely my game of the year, and I say this knowing Silksong is right around the corner. But part of the reason I love the game so much is that it takes me back to a certain time, a certain era of turn-based RPGs. It reminds me of my favorite game growing up, which was Final Fantasy VIII. Oh look, that tracks. Anyways, I know 8 is overshadowed a lot by 7 and 9, but it's personally my favorite. Not just out of the PS1 era, but the entire franchise. It's the only one that to this day I still enjoy doing a full playthrough, which I did very recently and figured might as well make it into a video. It had a lot of unique gameplay ideas that were pretty new at the time, and through those new ideas, amazing ways to break the game were hiding in the shadows. That's right, my love for breaking every single game I come across, all of that began here. Your journey starts after a rough training session with a guy that definitely won't turn into a villain later, giving yourself a cool, iconic scar. I'm not going to bore you with all the story details, but the short of it is that you play a character named Squall who's going to a special school to become a seed, which is like a special kind of mercenary. Quick disclaimer, I'm playing my legally obtained PS1 copy on an emulator, which is the version I prefer. If you're going to play the game yourself, I'd probably recommend the remastered edition or the original Steam version with mods since they look a lot better. But I would probably research which version's the best because they all have pros and cons. I prefer the PS1 version because the UI runs at 60 FPS, which is better for boost and duels. Back to the video. One of the first things you're introduced to through the tutorial menu on your class computer is GFs, short for Guardian Forces, not Girlfriends, which are the game's version of summons, and it gives you 2 of them for free, which are Shiva and Quetzalcoatl. More on those later. While I'm making my way through Balam Garden, I talk to this guy who gives me some playing cards. A whole lot more on that later. There's a training area where I can fight some monsters whenever I want, so let's take our first steps to getting stronger. I try to challenge a single Grat, and my main strategy is to not attack. Instead, I'll be using the draw command to draw magic from it. Magic and GFs are a little weird in this game. Instead of magic serving as a special attack that costs mana, it functions more like a consumable item that doubles as a piece of equipment. It's still an attack, but there's no such thing as MP. If I have 30 Thunders, that just means I can cast Thunder 30 times before running out. You can junction a GF to any given character to unlock junctions for specific stats, and then junction your magic to those stats to increase them, which is the main way to get stronger as a character. There's no limit to the amount of magic you can draw from an enemy, and you can hold up to 100 of each spell on each character. So there's no reason to not have a full party with 100 of each spell you have access to, which is why we're drawing sleeps and silences from a Grat for like 10 minutes. Once I'm done, I run away. I do not defeat the Grat or even damage it at all, because if I did that, I would earn XP, and I don't want to do that. I'm going for something called a low-level run. Normally that would be challenging in most RPGs, but Final Fantasy VIII is one of the first games to implement a system where your enemies and bosses level up with you. The way they made it so leveling up still matters at all is with the junction system. Ideally, you draw magic from your enemies, and as you level up, you'd fight higher level versions of the enemies with stronger magic. When you draw that higher level magic, you wind up even stronger than the enemies got, and that's how the progression goes. One small issue with this. High-level monsters aren't the only way to get strong magic. In fact, I can't think of a single spell that you have to level up in order to get a large quantity of. So by the time you reach the end of a low-level run, you're fighting bosses that are still like level 10, while you have stats equivalent to a max-level character, effectively giving a massive debuff to every single encounter throughout the entire game, as long as we do it right. In fact, the only hard part about a no-level-up game is avoiding leveling up by accident. It might seem a little boring just not fighting anything, but we're not playing to have fun here. We're playing to break the game. Anyways, now we can meet up with our teacher Quistis to take an exam to get our 3rd GF, Ifrit. On the way there, we're going to be drawing a bunch of spells from various enemies. Cure, Scan, Fire, Thunder, and Blizzard. Blizzard is going to be the important one since Ifrit is weak to ice damage. This also means he's weak to Shiva, which is one of the GFs we start with. I can pick my time limit and there's no difference whatsoever to the rewards, so I chose 10 minutes just to flex. Now, even though we're not fighting enemies to avoid XP, we do of course still have to fight the bosses. Luckily they don't give XP, but they do give lots of AP, which is important for your GFs to learn a variety of cool abilities, and we're going to need a lot of it since we're not fighting anything else yet. The most important ability to learn right away is Quetzalcoatl's card command, which can turn enemies into a playing card, which not only counts as defeating them, but removes all XP gain while still giving you everything else like AP and item drops, and of course giving you the enemy's card as a bonus. Speaking of cards, after a bunch of not fighting anything, it's time to go not fight some more by playing cards. That's right, this game has its own card minigame called Triple Triad, which is so fun that I wouldn't mind playing a full game of it. In terms of complexity, it's definitely more than checkers, but it's not quite chess. Almost every relevant thing in the game has a card based on it. Every monster, every boss, every GF, even most relevant characters have unique cards. You can challenge almost every NPC, and each one has a pool of different cards, some more unique than others. There's even a few quest lines to be done that give you access to even more cards. Each card has 4 numbers corresponding to each of its 4 sides. You take turns putting cards down in a 3x3 grid, and if you place one down with a higher number than the card next to it, it flips over into your color, giving you a point and taking a point away from them. Whoever flips more cards wins. Obviously, there's some levels of strategy to where you put your cards and when, and they start adding crazy rules later down the line, but generally speaking, having more rare cards with bigger numbers is going to lead to easier wins. But why are we collecting cards so much? Well, after learning the card ability, we can learn another ability called Card Mod, which can convert our cards into various items. And we can use refining abilities from other GFs to convert those items into various magic. Fish fins, which drop from these things, give 20 waters each, and water is a decently powerful spell for this early in the game. When we convert their cards to water crystals, the crystals give 50 waters each. Snow Lion cards can be converted into a material called North Wind, which refines into 20 Blizzagas. That's right, 5 Snow Lion cards gives us a full stock worth of a high level spell right at the beginning of the game, and when junctured to HP, multiplies it several times over. I know I made a video about how health is damage on an indirect level, and that's still the case here, but in this game it has a whole different meaning. This is probably a good time to start talking about the actual combat and how Squall is just way too OP. The characters use a variety of interesting weapons with varying amounts of accuracy, which needs to be upgraded by crafting better weapons or junctioning the luck stat. They don't always land their attacks, and they have a small chance to crit them. Squall is unique in that his attacks are guaranteed to land so long as he's not blinded, and instead of having random crits, he can always crit so long as you press R1 as the attack lands, skyrocketing his average DPS when attacking far higher than every other character. He gets even stronger if you abuse limit breaks, which is where HP comes in. As long as your character has around 25% HP or less, they have a chance to get their limit break. This chance rolls every time the command menu pops up for that character, and you can cycle different character commands using circle. So all you have to do is spam circle until the limit break pops up, and you can use a limit break practically every turn. Each limit break is unique to the character, and as you might have guessed by now, Squall's Renzakuken is usually the strongest, dealing several attacks, each stronger than a regular attack, and you can press R1 to crit each one of them as well. Sometimes he gets a finisher at random too, but more on that later. Not only does this deal more damage than every other limit break on average, but it also scales better into late game because it deals damage through multiple hits. Eventually you reach a point where practically everything you do will deal the damage cap of 9999 damage. So having an attack that deals 7 hits, each dealing 10k, is better than a single attack trying to deal 70k but gets capped at 10 anyway. Expedition 33 has the same mechanic, which I very quickly exploited. Zell's Duel is also capable of doing tons of multi-hits and can reach similar damage, arguably even more, but it's much harder to pull off. Anyway, higher health means you have more wiggle room between Limit Break Central and Death, on top of making it much easier to draw lots of magic from enemies, so having as much as possible is usually your biggest priority. Next part of the story, we're doing a training mission as a final exam to actually become Seeds, and have to party up with Cypher, this guy from earlier. And during the segment, there's a few encounters we have to fight, and we're not allowed to card the enemies. Luckily, Cypher is a temporary party member, and his level will not carry over to the rest of the game, so all we do is kill our own main party and solo these fights with Cypher. Ideally, you would also take this opportunity to grind Ifrit to at least level 10, since GFs can gain XP too, but I kinda just forgot to do this. Immediately after he leaves, we get a new party member named Selfie. Then we fight a few bosses back to back. These guys, which carry Asuna, this guy which carries both double and a brand new GF called Siren, and then finally my favorite trope of RPG boss, which is the kind you're supposed to avoid but you can still win anyway. See, what's supposed to happen is you learn the ships are leaving in half an hour. Then the enemies send a giant spider robot that chases after you. The unique thing about this boss is that it repairs itself to full HP every time it takes enough damage. There's no way to outpace this healing to my knowledge. However, when it goes into repair mode, your party is allowed to run away. So basically you gotta fight the boss over and over while trying to run away while on a timer, and when you finally get there, Quistis just mows it down with a turret. However, there's a hidden mechanic where if you put it in repair mode enough times during a single battle, it'll stop being able to repair itself entirely. So knowing that, you have two choices. You can choose to fight it normally while drawing as many protects as you can, since it's the first time that spell is available, or you can choose to go full offense and actually take it out. Since I'm a psychopath, I did both. There wasn't even a real reason. The next boss you fight has protect anyway, but I thought it'd be funny. Next up, we actually get our seed license, which means we start getting paid, and we're immediately sent on our first actual mission. We're also given a magical lamp that, when used, triggers a fight against Diablos, which is another GF. This boss isn't super difficult difficult by itself, but since a lot of his attacks are based on HP percentage, he's got a lot more damage than I'm comfortable with if I want to draw a bunch of demis from him. I was considering grinding a bunch of cards first to upgrade my character in a lot of ways, but as I researched it, I realized that if I did all this, the spells I'd end up getting are already stronger than Demi. Demi deals percentage-based damage, and I'm doing a low-level game. Bosses just don't have enough HP to make the spell any stronger than my other damage sources. So the only thing I use it for is junctions, and while it's stronger than what I have, it's not stronger than the stuff I was about to get. Demi would be invalidated the moment I got it, so, now that that's over, time to play more cards. We're still gonna get those upgrades I talked about. We can now challenge Headmaster Sid, who not only has the Cypher card, but also uses L-Noils very often, which is great because we need 20 of them for some future purposes. We can also upgrade our weapon right now, so we need 1 Tonberry, 6 Iron Giants, 2 Geezers, and 3 Adamantoises. Using Card Mod, we can change these into items that gives us the Punisher Gunblade. There's a bunch of magazines that tell you what's needed for each weapon upgrade, but if you have the right materials, you don't actually need the magazine. So we can immediately upgrade Squall to his second strongest weapon. In hindsight, I absolutely should have done this before that seed mission, and grab Abyss Worms for tornadoes instead of Blizzagas since they're way stronger, but to be fair, I didn't know about it. Next up, I went to the shop to buy as many tents as I can. Funny thing about tents, not only can you refine them for 10 Kiragas each, which is just insane for an item this cheap, but each tent costs 1,000 gil, and later on you get a GF with the ability to craft 4 of them into a Mega Potion, and then sell the Mega Potion for 5,000 gil, which profits you by 1,000 for each Mega Potion sold. Do I hear infinite money? This is a PS1 game with a crafting mechanic. Did you really think there wasn't going to be an infinite money exploit? Since I don't have that GF yet, I need money some other way. So I used seed tests to increase my seed rank as far as it'll let me go for my level, cranked the emulation speed as high as it goes, and ran back and forth to gain passive income from my seed rank. Oh look, 80,000 gil. Full Kiraga setup, don't mind if I do. Anyways, now I'm ready to start progressing. A handful of interesting things happen, like my entire party passing out and possessing a group of military guys from the past. But more importantly, I get access to this little patch of forest near a mountain. Why? Because Grendels spawn here and drop Dragon Fanes, which I need at least 4 of. Now we have to level up just a little bit. GFs level up just like your characters do, but they're split by how many different GFs are junctioned to your team. So all we do is kill off most of our team, have only Ifrit on one character of choice, and grind until Ifrit reaches level 10. Which again, I should have done with Cypher, but since I forgot, I'm doing it now. When Ifrit reaches level 10, we get access to ammo refining, which is going to be super important. After that, we continue progressing a little bit, still doing our normal no XP shenanigans and drawing magic, until we finally get to this little area here. I know it sounds like we've been breaking the game a lot already, but this is the last thing we need to actually invalidate the rest of the game. It's a special maze quest with a GF at the end called Brothers, and after finishing it, I now have the most important thing for my next step. The Minotaur card. Card Mod can convert it into 10 adamantines, and I only need 1 of them. Convert the 20 L-Noils into 2 energy crystals, then refine the 2 energy crystals to 20 pulse ammo, which we only need 12 of, and then add in the 4 Dragon Fangs from earlier, and suddenly we have all the ingredients for Squall's final weapon, the Lionheart. Now, I know I said Punisher was the second best, and it doesn't look like a big jump on paper, but it is. Oh, it is. Remember how Squall can randomly do a finisher after his limit break? Well, the finisher's available to him, depending on the weapon he's using. And the 4th and final finisher is Lionheart, named after the weapon. It's literally just another limit break, but on steroids. Hitting so hard that even with relatively low strength, you're close to reaching the damage cap on each hit. And this thing hits 17 times. Just to give you an idea on how my damage looks, the last boss in Disc 1 has exactly 4,000 HP at my level. My basic attacks deal over 2,000. A single Renzakuken deals upwards of 21,000, and when mixed with Lionheart, deals a little over 150,000 total. At my level, that would deal over 75% of Omega Weapon's HP. Omega Weapon being the strongest boss in the entire game. I get Lionheart near the end of Disc 1, and there's 4 of them, so I'm only 25% of the way through the game's content, yet I'm significantly stronger than most players will ever get. The game's pretty much been solved, and thus, this is where the video ends. That's not to say there aren't more ways of getting stronger, but most of them are either really tedious or just function through intended mechanics working in intended ways. Given the length of the video already, it's probably better to end it here and start prepping for Silksong, since I can always make a follow-up later. If you want to give Final Fantasy VIII a try one day, I really recommend it. Before we go, I found something I wanted to share that didn't fit anywhere else in the video. I was looking into the exact chances of Squall getting Lionheart to activate, and learned about a whole hidden system called crisis level. The game takes a bunch of factors on top of some randomness to decide not only whether or not your character gets a limit break, but also some extra details about the limits themselves. Depending on that crisis level, Squall gets more hits and a higher chance to use a random finisher, Irvine and Zell get more time in their limits. The effects for each character are different. I thought to myself, wow, this system is super confusing, so I sneezed and accidentally made a calculator to figure out for me. Shut up, I don't have a problem. No tools like this exist in the FF8 community to my knowledge, so at least I'll hopefully be helping more people than myself. At any time, you can pause your game, input your HP and other factors into the calculator, then it'll tell you various things, like how likely you are to get a limit break, your minimum and maximum crisis levels, your chance of getting the highest crisis level, and what that level means for your limit break. So that's pretty nifty, I guess. It's a bare bones HTML file, runs in any browser, download is in the description. Till then, like and subscribe for more content, and do all that algorithm crap.